Today we're going to talk about some things I think you need to know before you either move to Jamaica, or if you're coming to vacation, I think it will also be helpful. But this is mostly for people who want to move to Jamaica. If you don't know already, I moved to Jamaica 4 months now. I think I moved in November, and so far I have learned a lot. So I want to share that knowledge with you, so hopefully if you're thinking of taking this move, that you're not blindsided by any of these things. So without further ado, let's get into it.
You single. Slow down, only you the ginger, the whole town. Slow it sometime, go out.
It's gonna seem very cliche, but I think it has to be said. Living in Jamaica is different than vacationing in Jamaica. I just have to put that out there because Jamaica is a fun place to live in. It's a fun place to be. It is beautiful, the beach is amazing, everything, but living in a country is totally different than when you vacation. Like, experiencing the real life of this place is going to be kind of a culture shock to you if you're not from Jamaica or familiar with Jamaica culture. So I will say, before you decide to move to this country or any country, I think you need to do some serious research on, one, the political climate. You also need to do some research just on general cultural things. So I would say go on YouTube and watch like day in the lives, like realistic day in the life of living in Jamaica. Go on Google, read the news. That can be a bit scary though. So I would say like read the news with caution, because of course the news is reporting on all the bad things that's happening here. So you're going to see a lot of bad, so take that with a grain of salt, but I do think it's important to know like what is actually happening here. Look up things like the exchange rate, look up the cost of living, how expensive is the country, how easy is it to find a job if you're not already moving with a job. I would say it's just really important to get like a holistic view of what it's like to live here, especially, for example, if you're moving with kids. That's another important thing. What is the school systems like? Those are just some really important things so you can get an overall view of what it is actually like to live there, so you don't come here and like end up in a culture shock. Great place to start is watching videos like this, because I will definitely help you out and help you to kind of navigate some cultural things here. That brings me to number 2.
I need to slow down, yeah. So many things.
When you leave the house, do not leave the house and think that the only thing you need on you is your card. You will encounter going somewhere and their like card machine isn't working, and you'll have to have cash in order to get your transaction done, especially if you don't have a Jamaican bank account yet. So you won't be able to do like a bank transfer or anything. So I will say that is something that you really need to know. Having cash here is super, super, super important, because a lot of places don't even have card machines, or their card machine is down this day. So take that into consideration and make sure that when you're leaving the house, you get cash. Or there are ATMs all over the place. I recommend stopping if you're on the road and you're able to stop at like an NCB or a Scotia ATM. So Scotia and NCB are just 2 banks that are in Jamaica, and they have ATMs placed around the place. So I would suggest stopping while you're on the road and just making sure you have at least, I would say, $5,000 in cash on you, depending on what you're doing in that day. And that should be good. So another good reason to have cash on you is that Ubers do work in Jamaica, but sometimes I have found that it's actually better to call a taxi from like a reputable taxi company than trying to get an Uber, because the Ubers sometimes are very unreliable depending on which area you're in. So that's also why it's important to have cash, because the taxi companies do not take cards out here. So you're going to need to have cash to get around. So if for some reason you need a taxi, you don't want to be stranded out here and not have cash on you. So a good rule of thumb is just to always try to have at least $5,000 in cash on you. $5,000 is only about 33 USD, so it's not a lot of cash, but just make sure you have at least that on you so you can get around safely. Have to be very assertive with people when you get here. Jamaicans are very nice people, but we do have a very direct society. So if you're coming from America, where it's definitely more sugarcoating that happens in America, people don't really tend to say exactly what's on their mind. This is totally different. Jamaica, we're very straightforward. We tell you like it is. If you piss someone off, you're gonna know. If you go to a store, and some of these stores, if you stand there quietly, especially like wholesale stores or anything, they will ignore you fully. you will stand there for however long and they will just ignore you as people jump in front of you and ask for what they want. You have to be very, very assertive in certain situations, or you will find that you can get overlooked. So I will say prepare to speak up for yourself quite a lot. I talked about taking taxis in the last one. If you take taxis like I do because I don't have a car, sometimes when you open your mouth and talk and you don't sound Jamaican, they will try to raise that price. So when you call a taxi, always make sure that you ask for a tag. A tag is basically how much the taxi costs. Ask for that tag so that when you get in the taxi, if they tell you a different price, you're gonna have to speak up for yourself and be like, no, this is what I was told and I'm not paying any more than that. And you're just gonna have to be very assertive about it and just make sure that you stand up for yourself or you will be taken advantage of. It's small things like that that I feel like you just have to prepare for. Nothing moves fast here. Every single thing moves very, 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 very slowly. I cannot even stress enough how slowly everything moves. For example, if you're going to the hair salon and you want to get your hair done, just be prepared to spend half your day there. Do not try to book any appointments back to back. So if your hair appointment's at 7 a.m. and it says it's supposed to take 3.5 hours, don't book anything for 12 p.m. You're not gonna make it. Island time is a real thing and it can get very frustrating and annoying sometimes, especially when you have a busy day. But if you set your expectations correctly, you can just, you know, reduce some of your own anxiety. I know when I first moved here, especially coming from America, because I've been in America so long and everything moves like this, coming back, it gave me so much anxiety. If I have a 9 a.m. appointment to something, it would stress me out so much if I get there at 9 and my stylist is still doing something. Like, your stylist is still busy. She's not even in a rush to finish her current client even though you're there. That is something that you have to be prepared for because it happens literally all the time. Don't be in a rush to do anything. Just take your time. Obviously still try to be respectful of people's time because they are people at the end of the day, but just know that you do not have to stress yourself out just to try to be on time because we're all gonna be on island time. The media does paint a very scary image of what it's like to live and travel in Jamaica. I would say it's not exactly like that. Yes, this is not the safest country in the world, but if you take regular precautions, you will be okay. So, for example, do not wear flashy items on the street when you're walking on the street, right? Do not walk with your phone in your hand. I would say if you're walking with a phone, put it in a bag. Do not put anything in your back pocket while you are walking down the street. If you're going out to a party, definitely don't just have your phone in your back pocket or have any valuables out for people to see. Do not flash money anywhere so people to see. But I feel like that is pretty normal. If you live in any big city or if you've ever lived in any big city before, like New York, Atlanta, LA, you know that these are normal things. You don't just flash your valuables because someone will try to take them from you. You need to be aware of what's happening in your surroundings while you are here. Definitely do your research on notoriously bad areas so you don't accidentally find yourself in those areas. But do not be super scared about being here. Do not have it cause you serious anxiety. Just make sure that you are using your common sense while you're here. You will be okay. I need you to be aware that cost of living is high. Moving from the US to Jamaica, yes, the US dollar goes a lot farther, I would say. So the exchange rate is 1 JMD to 155 USD. So for every 1 Jamaican dollar, that is 155 US dollars. Did I say that correctly? You might find that it's a bit more affordable to live here if you're making a US salary, but it is still very expensive to live here. I would say the most expensive thing you will find about living in Jamaica is buying food. Food is really expensive. The grocery store, when you buy your monthly groceries, it's expensive. There are ways to get around going to like grocery store chains to get everything so you can cut your food costs. But it is very expensive to buy food here. Transportation can be a bit expensive if you're buying cars or just any normal thing you would buy in the US. Say you wanted to buy a blender, buying that in a Jamaican store is going to be 3 times or 2 times more expensive because they have to import it into the country. So definitely think about that when you're thinking of moving here. This is not the budget-friendly, super budget-friendly destination. Make sure that living in Jamaica is even in your budget. The last thing I think you should be aware of before moving here is the requirements for moving here. US citizens can stay up to 6 months visa-free. For a longer stay, especially if you want to live here full-time, you will have to apply for a residency status. As part of your application, you will need obviously your passport, and you will also need proof that you can provide for yourself financially. The process can take a really long time, so I would say months before you even think about leaving, I would say start to apply at the Jamaican consulate while you're still in your home country. Because if you come here and you try to do it here and it takes too long, you don't want to run the risk of overstaying your welcome. So definitely try to look into it before you even leave your home country. I hope this video was super helpful for anyone who wants to move to Jamaica or is just thinking of coming here for any extended period of time. I love Jamaica. I love living here. I think it was one of the best choices I've ever made. And I know there are whole lots of Jamaicans out there and just other people who want to know what it's like to live in Jamaica. I have vlogs on my page where you can kind of live vicariously through me and see what it's like to live in Jamaica. I definitely share the good, bad, and the ugly. Definitely check out my channel. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. If there's any specific topics that you want me to hit on, definitely leave them in the comments below and I'll try to address them in future videos. Until then, look out for me on Sunday for my weekly vlog, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.